and welcome back to another video. As you've already heard, we have an encounter. And today we have an encounter between Luckyback, playing on the name Luckyback. He is a Korean streamer, one of the smaller ones, but still has quite a following and has quite a status as being one of the best, fastest map players in Korea, basically. You can't say much else about him. There's about 4 or 5 players in total who are on his level, or that's what I've been told. And here we have Suddenwang. Now you might be wondering, who is Suddenwang? Well, Suddenwang has appeared on this channel a couple of times before, and it's one of the names used by the player Bo5, who most of you are definitely familiar with. And he's playing the blue Protoss here, as we're kicking off a series between Luckyback and Bo5. And I'm not sure whether it's a best of something or best of what. We'll just have to wait and see until the series concludes. But Luckyback playing the Red Terran here, as is one of his best races, quite honestly. And the people who are familiar with Falcon Paladin's channel, we have already seen a game of Luckyback. It was a Terran versus Zerg against the player Duckarandom, another powerhouse player on probably the same level as both of these players we're watching here right now. Bo5 is mostly known for his Protoss, his Terran and Zerg, both still quite good. His Terran definitely better than his Zerg, but his Protoss is head and shoulders above the others. And his Protoss in general is head and shoulders above most players, really. It's really what sets him apart. But Luckyback is more of an all-round player. So I'm really interested to see how Luckyback is going to bring this all home to us. And now I'm going to turn on the sound, so we can hear those beautiful mining sounds. Do you hear them? Beautiful mining sounds. Anyway, let's get into the game itself. Luckyback started off with 2 barracks, followed by an academy and a stim upgrade quite early into the game. He relies on his micro, but Bo5 has quite amazing zealot micro himself. And here he already managed to move his zealots up a little bit closer to catch, to close off the escape route of those marines. But he's managed quite well. Already has 2 firebats out. Both firebats have taken quite some damage. Both zealots have taken quite some damage. Both firebats as well. 1 firebat goes down. And he's just going to keep the pressure up while he keeps ramping up inside his base, because he's got a +1 Nexus, now even adding on a choke, as is the plan with this build, even adding on a security blanket cannon right next to his Nexus, just in case the firebat makes it through into his base. There is the bunker with firebats in them. Zealots not that great, so not that great into a bunker, so great choice there from Bo5 from Luckyback, not risking it and not just relying on his micro ability, but instead getting himself a security blanket, just as Bo5 is getting himself a security blanket here in his base, by building that bunker and ensuring that he will not lose those units to micro zealots. Because, well, relying on your micro, if you can do it, you're free to do it. But the really good players rely on having a safety blanket just in case something can go wrong. And something can often go wrong between these top level players. And there's already Cybernetic score to gas that is mining from, only as of now, it's a little bit late. Usually they start a little bit earlier, but he managed to save himself up a little bit of a surplus and minerals. But it is going to delay his tech development. Now he's going to try to sneak those firebats in, or he's just going for the cannons straight in. He's going for the cannons. He managed to take one down, but the other one doesn't go down. The zealots there fighting off those firebats and the marines eventually do have to pull back. The medics have arrived on the scene, but the medics will not make much of a difference because there's simply too many zealots to fight into. A little bit of a waste of his units, but it does cost Suddenwang 2 zealots and a cannon, and now he's making 3 more cannons in addition, because he just wants to be entirely sure that he's not going to get any firebats or any units inside of his base. He just wants to be able to keep doing his build order as he intends to do it. And there's already still a Dune. He's not going for the early robotics. He's going for a little bit of later robotics, because I expect, and don't take my word for it, but I expect that the early Citadel of Dune means we're going to be seeing a Templars archive leading into Dark Templars, or very early just regular Templars. There's quite some options he has, but I think that is the option he's going for. Dark Templars, because Luckyback is trying to be quite aggressive. There's some great micro here. running away from those Zealots, but the Zealots are mined once again pretty well. And the Zealot's now trying to get out, but there's not enough time for the Zealot to come out alive. Luckyback in the meantime has added on a factory. He's now adding on a starport for the tank drop, most likely, or raids. Raids, of course, used to snipe shuttles, or the dropship used to fly in tanks. But Suddenwang, aka 458, is one of those players who takes care of securing his mineral patch. As we've already seen with all these precautionary cannons here all around his main, he really is one of those players who puts a huge emphasis on protecting his probe. So he's already placing a lot of cannons all around his main nexus just to secure and prevent the potential tank drop. And as we already saw, we heard the sound of Luckyback using his scan. So Luckyback already has the information of what 458 is up to. So he might already have seen that there's so many cannons around here. There's still a bit of a window here to tank drop from, but he might not risk it. Dark Templars on the way here. Shuttle on the way as well. Robotic support bay is not yet oh, there it is. There is the robotic support bay, but no shuttle speed is on the way because he cannot afford it. Because he needs that gas for other things. No Zealot lags on the way either. But he is adding on a lot of gateways, so we can assume that he's most likely going for more of those Zealots. Added on more gazers. Already on 48 probes. So he's managing to progress quite well. Luckyback is taking it a bit slower because he only added on a single command center, not two, just a single one. And this might hamper his recoverability just a little bit. But he's setting himself up for the turtle game, adding a choke, adding turrets on the side. Already has a couple of Marines located here to intercept the shuttles or Dark Templars, either of the two. Dark Templar there running into the turret. He's going to take down. Ooh, this SCV manages to finish the turret, which means the Dark Templar is going to go down. Still one more Dark Templar there in the corner. He's not fishing for anything just yet. He knows he can't really go in because the front has a turret. This is protected by a turret, except for this here. Use the scan once again to scan the choke here and sees that there's two shuttles there. Now he's going to try to adapt to that, or he uses it for the tank drop information because there's no tanks in there. He didn't put any tanks in the dropship. That's peculiar. There's a Marine there for the drop dodge. Like you hotkey your workers on, let's say, 0, 9, and 8. And whenever a Templar drop is flying into your base or reverse, you send your SCVs away here, which is the goal of this Marine there in the corner. To save your workers. Shuttle is just scouting, I assume? Or perhaps it's trying to scare 458 into taking his workers off of his minerals, which is a small win. But not all that much. There's no tanks in there. He's just scouting, I assume. Getting himself information. Well, we could have just used scans for that, but I think he wants to hold on to the scan, maybe? Because he only has a single scan. No +2 command center, just a single one. The front here is fortified quite well. But I'm more curious to see what 458 is up to, because 458 now has 2 Reavers, 2 Zealots here inside of these shuttles. He's going to fly them in. Is he going to achieve something? Alright, he managed to land right in front of those Marines. A single Reaver goes down. A Scarab there not really exploding. Second Scarab does explode. Third Scarab also explodes. And he managed to catch a couple of Marines and opens up a path here on the bottom side of Luckyback's base. But Luckyback already pulling SCVs over to plug up that hole with turrets and locates a couple of more Marines here so he can intercept. His base is still quite small. Honestly, it really is. So 50 SCVs. He's spending quite well though. It's just the choice to go for only a +1 command center has slowed down his SCV progression, because usually he would be on about 67 here. Just about the same amount as Suddenwang has, but that seems to not be the case here. Suddenwang is mining from a lot of gazers here. He's going for the very early carriers. He's not planning on going for the mass drop spam game as he usually does. He does have a huge mass prepared here, already on 160 supply. He's really rushing for the carriers here. He's really putting an emphasis on this. He did go for... It does look like he went for 2 different things at the same time, but there's always a plan behind it when you're talking about 458. But he hasn't been dropping as frequently as he usually does. Now the drop comes in at 10 minutes over the western side of the base, eastern side of the base. A lot of Zealots there being unloaded on the low ground, but no Templars in there. I did see a couple of Templars here in the mix, but they must have died inside of the shuttle that went down. And the Zealots now just being a huge distraction there. He's trying to run in more Zealots, but they kind of get blocked. He isn't really getting in there. They all kind of just go down because of this great bunker placement here from Luckyback. Even this bunker here is quite well placed. There's nothing in there, but it's quite well placed. Helps secure those turrets on the side. Same with these bunkers. If Reavers do come here, or Templars do come here, they cannot get stormed to death. It takes the bunker first, and then the Marines. So that's a great way of preserving and securing that you keep having damage to defend yourself with around your own command center. Another drop here on the eastern side, filled up with a lot of Templars and Zealots. And considering he dwindled down the numbers of forces that Luckyback here on the bottom corner and also killed all those turrets, he can now fly in unopposed. As if he's dodging the drop, Storm's coming down, he gets a Storm off, but kills about 4 or 5. He kills a tank as well, it storms the command center, but pretty much no results gained. Other than the extension of Luckyback's time frame to keep building, and shortening the time on the clock for Suddenwang to get his build order finished up as he wants it. It's really smart to put this as an expo here on the top, because it's very unlikely that Luckyback knows this is happening here on the top. Another frontal attack happening here, just kind of focus on those depots to open up a hole in the wall. You just have to progress slowly progress towards your goal. But Luckyback knows this was the goal that Suddenwang had in mind, so now he's just plugging it up once again, make it harder for Suddenwang to get in there. And Suddenwang is kind of slowed down. No shuttles. Oh, shuttles are now finishing up. Took a while. Usually he's a bit faster on those shuttle drops. Usually he kind of spams them. But I think he feels that he wouldn't be getting as much success, because Luckyback honestly is one of the best defensive players against drops. I rarely ever see it work against them all that well. But he does have a little bit of a weak front side here, which might have been something that Suddenwang could have used. But he's instead electing to go for the shuttle drops, and the shuttle here comes in. But he already dodged the drop. Or he did not dodge the drop. Oh, so he risked it quite a bit. But he killed the shuttles, killed the units on the low ground there. And that's one of those cases where risking it works out in favor of Luckyback, because it means no delayed mining time, no lost mining time. Just a lot of lost units here in the bottom corner. Another drop flies in already. Suddenwang is really ramping it up. And he's doing what I was mentioning earlier, spamming those drops, making life really hard for Luckyback. Luckyback manages himself really, really well, always dodging those storms well in time. He's never risking, well, he risked one of them, but most of these, he's not risking them. He's making a science facility there in the top corner of the map. Smart, saves some space in his base. And 458 is very unlikely to ever scout this. So at least he's got that going for him. Secured. This one bugged onto the hill. Well, it gives him some extended vision, so that's an advantage, I would say. Carriers are finishing up. He's got interceptor capacities, got air upgrades on the way as well. And just to give you a little footnote, he went for just plasma shield upgrade because he's planning on not sticking to ground forces. So he's investing in his air upgrades first. So first the shield, which also transitions for air units. It's a global upgrade for ground and air. And then he's going for the armor, and where is the other one? Well, the armor and the air weapon upgrade. Once again, going for the front, trying to open up these depots. And I don't think Luckyback knows carriers are already out on the map, as we see them here leaving the Carrier Expo, Stargate Expo, however you want to call it. The Stargate Expo there on the top corner of the map. Drop flying in here. Lots of units made it in. And this time there's no Templars in there. Assume he dropped them all here on the top side and just flew in to force Luckyback to dodge, but Luckyback... Well, if you can count the units, like if you see there's 4 Zealots and only 2 shuttles, then you immediately know, alright, there's nothing left in there. Deductive reasoning, so to speak. And yeah, he is discontinuing the use of ground forces. He's just switching completely to carriers. He does have a couple of ground forces on the way, but he's not really planning on using them all that much, other than maybe for drops. Drops would then, of course, be flown in under the guise of the interceptors, which protects them and takes a lot of focus away from those shuttles and forces Luckyback to focus on the carriers And even if he then does focus on those shuttles, it does eat up a little bit of his concentration and ability to fight back against the carriers. That is a smart setup. And he's forced to add a lot of command centers here on the side to get use of all the gas here. And the carriers already flying themselves in, and there's absolutely no countermeasure here inside of Luckyback's space against those carriers except for Marines with a single weapon upgrade. The thing he's got going for him here is that he's got a lot of turrets, a lot of Marines here behind those turrets as well, so he can just stim up those Marines and kill those interceptors quite quick. But here's the drop flying in, and he notices the drop immediately turns around, gets saved. Just the... Oh, it's so close, and there's Templars being dropped on the low ground to storm those Marines that were taking care of the interceptors. So at least he's managing to gain himself a little bit of an advantage here. Clears out a couple of turrets. Luckyback buys himself time. Luckyback loses a couple of Marines. But nothing too serious. He's already making Valkyries, but he only has 4 starports to make Valkyries. So that's going to take a little bit of time before he has the number of Valkyries that he needs. He also has a lot of supply in tanks. And this might take a while before he is sufficiently prepared to fight into those carriers. And once again, this shuttle is... well, it turned out to be empty. Those Corsairs are there to fight against raids. Perhaps he's even adding on Disruption Web into the mix. But the carriers are the main players on the stage here. A lot of Marines and Valkyries there taking care. The Corsairs now attacking the Valkyries. Valkyries being migrated backwards. Now the Marines are focusing on the Corsairs as well. Corsairs taking out a couple of those Valkyries, but most of the Valkyries staying alive. Whereas the Corsairs have pretty much been dropped down to just 3 in number. And there is the drop. Gonna fly in under the protection of those carriers. 4 Templars and 6 Zealots. That's a beautiful mix there. But will it make its way in? Because there's a lot of units here on the flight path of that drop. And 458 now trying to force the attention up to the north. And he manages to do so because the Valkyries have flown away. Now focusing on the interceptors there on the top. But a very quick reaction, a very quick stim actually manages to snipe the exact right shuttle. So no Templars inside the base of Luckyback. 458 once again fails to put a dent into Luckyback. Now Luckyback is just showing us a really good display of defensive terrain. Doing everything that he should be doing, and he's doing it exactly correct. Exactly textbook. No mistakes have been made as of yet. Playing very, very solid here. Calm, composed, and slowly progressing. Now going for the tank push here in the front, trying to erase a little bit of these cannons here on the middle. Those carriers come flying in, but now here the Marines and the Valkyries ready to take care of those interceptors. But the carriers being microed really well, taking care of all those tanks on the low ground and stopping the push from Luckyback out into the middle of the map. Oop, sorry there. Now the Corsairs coming in to take care of those Valkyries, but the Valkyries already being microed backwards. Now the Corsairs are in the mix. Valkyries pulling back. Now means that those interceptors get a little bit of free firing time without being pressured. Valkyries already being microed back once again. Corsairs, though, are going to give up their lives. Try and take on the Valkyries. The Valkyries are once again being moved away from those Corsairs, but now there's no turrets here focusing on the Corsairs. The Valkyries once again flying away, but now there's a drop coming on top of Luckyback's minerals, and Luckyback did not see this one coming. Great multitasking there from 458, and Luckyback spread his attention a little bit too thin on too many fronts, and now 458 has free game inside of Luckyback's base. Luckyback, though, has 10,000 minerals, so he can keep fighting on a little bit longer, but now he's focusing on the command center, and he's focusing on the command center beneath the command center that he tried to protect. And it's still alive. He killed one of the fake command centers floating above the real command center, and once again he kills another one, but now the real one is exposed, and now the real one is getting attacked, and the real one is going down. And 458 has managed to take down the command center, is now managing to take down a lot of things inside of Luckyback's base, and Luckyback is really bleeding out here because his supply count has dropped to 140, down from 200. Lost his main command center, lost a lot of SVs as well. And the carriers are finally dying down, but there's still 4 carriers inside the base, but they are low on interceptors. So most of the interceptors have been taken down. And this single lone Valkyrie here with 1-1 upgrade against 2-3 upgrades on those carriers already. You can see here 2-3-2 already. He's about to max out those upgrades within a couple of seconds. And ooh, these carriers are still dealing huge amounts of damage there. And 458, instead of going for more carriers, well, he's going for more carriers. Instead of just going for only carriers, he's already massed out a couple of Zealots here on the low ground and a couple of Templars as well to try and hold this push from Luckyback, because Luckyback is going for the all-in push here while the carriers are still inside his base, killing his SCVs, killing his units that are spawning, and just being very, very annoying. Luckyback knows he has to deal damage on this attack, otherwise 458 is just going to keep building up on that advantage of taking those SCVs and taking the command center. And Carrier's still alive. He's completely ignoring the carriers, even though he... Well, considering he cannot afford... He doesn't have the gas to afford Goliaths. He does have a couple of Goliaths on the way, but he cannot afford Goliaths all that well. So this is a heroic push from Luckyback. And he's pushing 458 into a corner. He's almost maxed out. Only 40 SCVs, so that means his unit count is absolutely massive. But will he have enough minerals to sustain this push? Because he cannot make any more tanks. He can mostly just make vultures. And there's a couple of Goliaths spawning. And almost all of the carriers here went down. There's only 2 left alive. But those 2 carriers are still being very, very annoying here. Disrupting Luckyback's income. Disrupting the units that are spawning for Luckyback. And killing units as well. And these Goliaths, although they have 2/2 upgrades, are incapable of killing those 2 carriers. Those 2 carriers are being very effective at what they're doing. And now the lack of anti-air here is giving these carriers in the front here the full opportunity to take down Luckyback's entire mass. And that is pretty much... It was worth the shot, given the situation he was in. But it backfired really hard. Even though you might as well send them out into the middle and try to attack, given that the only units that are attacking you are carriers. And so that game turns out in favor of 458. Even though he couldn't put a dent into Luckyback's defenses, basically, during the early phases of the game, up until about 15 minutes, eventually he did find the window, and he had prepared and set himself up so well with the quick carrier mass that Luckyback didn't really have the units he needed to fight into those carriers. Partially because the carrier expo was placed here on the top right corner. Luckyback, scanning the base of Suddenwang quite frequently, assumed that it wasn't there. But I'm not gonna... It's easy to say as an observer, or easy to say in hindsight. But sometimes you have to start wondering, I'm not seeing as much units being used or as much minerals being used as should be used. And from that point of view, you can somewhat deduce that maybe carriers, or maybe a carrier switch is coming quite early, or maybe a specific tech switch is coming quite early that I should prepare for. And then you start scouting the map, which is something Luckyback did do to a certain degree. He scouted the entire left side of the map, but ignored the right side of the map, which was the side that Suddenwang was building on. So anyway, 0-1-0 score for 458, and I'm gonna pause and go to game number 2. And for game number 2, we are back with the exact same 2 races. Let's see what their colors are. Alright, so we have the light blue-gray, something, I'm not sure what this color is, but we have Luckyback once again on a Terran, on the top side of the map, the 12 o'clock spot, and he's up against Suddenwang, aka 458. He's playing the red Protoss, and if we mix up the colors, he becomes blue, Luckyback becomes red, but I honestly like these colors that they have right now. So I'm just going to stick to these neutral colors. So, just a quick recap once again of the previous game. Luckyback displayed some really good anti-drop measures. He really has mastered the anti-drop, but he spread his attention a little bit too thin while fighting those carriers and trying to micro his Valkyries away from those Corsairs, which honestly was an essential move, because he did need to keep those Valkyries alive, given the fact he lacked a sufficient amount of anti-air to fight into those carriers. Honestly, he did. No Goliaths, small amount of Valkyries, couple of Marines, and a lot of tanks. And tanks, as we all know, cannot attack into air. And that gave Suddenwang the window to fly in a shuttle and storm all those SCVs to Kingdom Come. Which, in turn, opened up the opportunity for Suddenwang to snipe that command center, and the rest is history. So Luckyback once again starting off with 2 barracks, very confident in his micro, but as we saw on the previous game, he did make a bunker, just as a safety blanket. So he's confident in his micro, but not overconfident. He knows when he cannot take a risk, he knows when he needs that safety blanket to fall back on. You might just be seeing him making that bunker once again, because 458 is always planning on going aggressive with that 2 Gateway Zealot pump. Because, well, that's just what he does when he does this build. He just gets those Zealots to go and fight those Marines, and hopefully keep the Marine number of Luckyback to a low count, so that he can get that choke up safely and transition into whatever tech build he wants to do. Reavers, Dark Templars, High Templars, maybe something goofy like Dragoons and Zealot Lags, a combination that I've not seen before, maybe just straight into Carriers, I don't know. There's a lot of options he can go as a Protoss. That's the strength of a Protoss. It is a very diverse race. You can do many different things. 2 Firebats are already out. And do we have cannons here? We do not even have a Forge. Forge is still on the way. So those Firebats are very, very early for Luckyback. Suddenwang did see them, but Suddenwang is focused on sniping Zealots here inside of Luckyback's base. There's a bunker up now, but it's only a single Marine inside that bunker. Now a second Marine is entering the bunker, third one is on the way as well. 2 Firebats here are about to enter Suddenwang's base. Suddenwang is now responding to it. He's relocating his Zealots. He's ignoring the Firebats. I copy. There's a cannon on the way here, but those Firebats are pretty close. Stim upgrade has just finished. Now he can run into those probes. The probes are now trying to run away. He managed to kill a single one. And he killed the second one. But there's 2 more on the way here. Suddenwang is in dire situation. And the Firebat goes in. Firebat dies. Firebat kills a couple of those. And the other one kills... He did take down about 7 of them. So he did take down about 7 of those probes. That's a huge, huge snipe for Luckyback there. Which... honestly, puts him in a pretty good spot. Considering he did lose a couple of SCVs here to those Zealots. And it slows Suddenwang's tech progression down significantly. Slows down his cybernetics core, slows down his gas, because now he has to use all those probes on his minerals to recover. And there's the 2 simulators. And no cybernetics core yet. The probe is there, ready to make it, but he's going for the offensive move here. Denying Luckyback the choke. Luckyback canceled the choke. Luckyback has a couple of... oh, now Luckyback is going back in because he has the medics there in the mix to heal his units up from the stim. But the Firebats go down, the Marines get microed away. The Marines get microed away really, really well, actually. But eventually the number in Zealots is just too big for those Marines to handle. And the last Zealot eventually does wind up not picking up another Marine. Well played by Luckyback. Because now 458 has no Zealots left whatsoever. And only 4 cannons there in the front. Which is honestly... at the moment, more than enough. But given the fact that Luckyback has added on more barracks, is getting range upgrade. Alright, so he added on 4 more barracks, 2 more, but he's not using them at all. Instead, he's electing to go for command centers. Which is quite interesting, because he could have gone for a quick ramp up in Marine count, and gone for the frontal attack on those 4 cannons. Which is something that can work once you have Marine range, but instead he went for the 2 extra command centers. So he's planning on going for a longer game instead of risking it all for an all-in in the early game. Which is actually quite smart, but maybe he doesn't know how much damage he dealt to Suddenwang. The worker count is already in advantage, once again, for 458. For Suddenwang, he had that +1 Nexus out quite early, so he is ramping up and recovering somewhat from losing those probes in the early game, because he didn't lose all that many, but did lose 7 or so, which is still quite a blow. But he already has his little to do now. Now he's even attacking here in the front, attacking into those Marines. But the Marines being marked quite well. The Fire Bat also dealing a lot of damage to the Zealots. And the Zealots pull back to the cannons. That's a little bit of a deny there from Luckyback. Luckyback now also choking up. He's got the detection there with the turret. No turret at his main yet. He's now added on the factory and the machine shop. And he's just slowly ramping up and relying on getting a very, very big economy. But first the 2 scans, because he needs that information. Once those 2 scans finish, I'm going to turn off the vision for Suddenwang so we can see what Luckyback is scanning. He scans the choke, scans the main base, and here he sees the tech progression for 458. He even sees the 2 gateways being added on. But most importantly, he did not see the shuttles, so he knows that no drop is heading his way. No attack is heading his way anytime soon. Dark Templars have just spawned, but Dark Templars will not be capable of getting in there. They will be capable of killing this here in the front. There is a shuttle out. He's going to try to fly those Dark Templars into Luckyback's base and fish for things to kill or harass. Much like as in the last game. In the last game, he yielded no results. This time he might get some results, but there's already 2 scans, but those scans don't have energy for a scan. And he sees the Dark Templar. He sees a distortion of vision happening. So he pulls back his Marines. He tries to bait that. Oh, he managed to bait the Templar into the turret range. Turret there, no turret. Or there's a turret there as well. So this is basically everything is protected. There's pretty much nothing for Suddenwang to hunt for. Suddenwang using the last of those 3 Dark Templars to keep Luckyback busy and try to fish for an advantage to build, but not much is happening. Another scan came down. And this time he scanned all of the techs. He said there's 3 robotics. He's the Reaver, so he knows the Reaver is coming in. Reaver gets picked up. Zealots get picked up. Luckyback is preparing himself for that Reaver drop. Which side will it come from? Reaver is flying to the right side of the map, which also happens to be Luckyback's weak side in his base. He's now sending out an SCV to plug up the weakness. No, he's not making turrets. He's not relocating Marines either. And he does have a lot of those Marines. But the Marines are somewhat located on the wrong side of his base. He's expecting a left side attack, but it's a right side attack here. And 458 already loading up another drop, but the drop comes here from the right side, and the SCV's dodging it. Reaver gets picked up. This turret there is placed quite well, but the shield is now out of use. And let's see what he can achieve with this Reaver. The tank has been sieged up. Marines are coming in, and surprisingly, nothing was gained. So that's a good situation for Luckyback, but he's still losing a lot of units here to the Dark Templar that was still there. Another drop flies in. Well, not flying in yet. It's flying over the map, preparing to go in. Scan comes down. What did he scan? He scanned the front. Sees that there's 1 shuttle there, so he assumes that the shuttle is on the way. Already has replaced or relocated his Marines up to this point here, but Suddenwang can see those Marines with the shuttle, so he's just going to fly around them because he's a smart guy. And those units get unloaded on the low ground. He storms a couple of Marines. A couple of Marines go down, but there's still more Templars here in the mix. Another storm coming down on an SCV, but nothing is gained. And still more storms. More storms killing more Marines. All the storms have been expanded, but another drop flies in over the other side of the map. And he kills a bunch of SCVs with a tank shot, and even kills more with the storm. Huge pickup here for Suddenwang, building himself a huge advantage here, because Luckyback is only on 35 minerals, while losing about 20 of his SCVs, which should slow him down a lot. And given that his base is still quite small, but already being 10 minutes in, it means that 458's abuse has been yielding fruits that 458 is now going to be trying to cash in on. Because 458 knows that, oh, I've dealt some damage to Luckyback here. I've built myself an advantage. I've climbed myself back into the game. Opens up his one strategy where he just keeps spamming and spamming and spamming everywhere he can to keep the Terran busy, keep killing Terran forces, and then going for a frontal attack once he has his base all filled up. So Luckyback, having those 2 extra command centers, is recovering quite well here. He is losing a couple of turrets here, a couple of units there as well. But nothing that really puts him in a dire situation. He's not even mining gas all that much because he knows he still had a lot of gas there in the tank. Just adding on to his base. A lot of engineering base there to give him additional vision over the hills. Smart to do that. And yeah, I just expect him to be adding on more of those refineries very soon. 458 adding a huge amount of gateways there. So he's not planning on going for the carriers as in last game. He's just planning on going for gateway units because he already has a couple of gateway unit upgrades on the way. There's the shield. No, a weapon is now on the way as well. Weapon and armor. He flies in, makes it all the way in. Templars on the low ground. Templars have energy now. And he's waiting with the storm because those SCVs are dodging and running away. But now there's a huge pile of SCVs still there on the minerals that weren't hotkeyed. So he does lose about 16 SCVs in the end. So he's been reset to the point he was at earlier after that first initial drop from the left side here. After he dropped here on the right side as well. So the 2-pronged attacks have yielded results and spamming out drops is yielding results as well. And now he's scanning the base. But he hasn't scanned the most important part, the frontal part here. So he doesn't know what Suddenwang is cooking up. Suddenwang is going for a frontal attack here. There's some bunkers here. There's 2 depots there. But it should not be enough to hold this. There's those Archons tearing through that depot so damn quick. Although they are blocking each other quite a bit. And they make it in. Bunkers now the focus of 458. Templars there as well. Templars storming on the Marines. Templars gonna be storming more. Storms the tank. Broke through the front there. But this fire bats in this bunker are really doing a great job there. Those bunkers with fire bats are the bane of the Zealot's existence. And yeah, that pretty much it did something. It forces Luckyback to reinvest in getting his choke back up. Lost a couple of units, mostly Marines, a couple of Vultures as well. But no real damage. But it was just to make Luckyback focus on relocating units to the front and probably finding himself a path into Luckyback's base with these shuttles, because now he's a path here. Flying in over the bottom right corner of the base, makes it all the way through. SCVs already dodging, all of them this time dodging. And the Templar immediately gets shot. Both Templars immediately get focus fired by Luckyback. So no danger of losing units there, or SCVs specifically, but now a frontal attack is happening as well, and this time there's less units here in the front. He's even shuttling units in right on top of those tanks, and now he's breaking through the front. Luckyback is... This one hurts Luckyback significantly, because now 458 is just gonna spam gateway units and send them in and focus on specific targets to take down and slowly build himself an advantage, while this tug of war here that now has moved into Luckyback's base will slowly progress into 458's advantage, because he has those upgrades that Luckyback does not have. 0-1, 1-1, basically the same upgrades, but those storms are doing miracles for 458. 458 now has a 70 supply lead over Luckyback because he has so many gateways here. Pretty much his entire base is a big gateway, and he's immediately sending them out as they finish at the 3:58 p.m. And Luckyback incapable of getting his SCVs to the front in time to plug up the hole. And now units come streaming in. There's a drop here as well. 4 Templars. 4 Templars being unloaded. 4 Templars storming. 4 Templars gets a storm off. Gets another storm off, and he hits all the SCVs. And Luckyback calls it WW, aka the GG on the Korean keyboard. And Suddenwang displays really amazing PvT, and this is the PvT style that I love. I'm not a fan of his carrier play, but his carriers look kind of boring to me personally. They're big, they might be cool, but it's not that micro intense, or so it seems or appears. This though, I really like this. The heavy macro game with great multitasking, barrages of attacks, non-stop, never ending, always under that pressure of that foot about to crush down on you. That's 458's Protoss, and yeah, Luckyback was just held back, pushed into a corner, and then the corner gets bombarded. But yeah, let's go into game number 3 and see how this series progresses. Can Luckyback make a comeback? So far, I am quite impressed with both players. 458 has displayed an amazing and diverse Protoss with amazing multitasking, but most of all, really, really good setups and really good reads on what Luckyback is doing and where Luckyback's weaknesses are. Because that's one of the biggest things you have to take advantage of as a Protoss. Identify the weak spots, open up holes, abuse those holes that you just opened up inside of the Terran base before the Terran can plug up those holes, and just build your advantage and snowball your advantage, as we saw with Suddenwang. He opened up holes, set up distractions, so he could get his drops and his storms onto those SCVs. And once he recognizes that a significant amount of units have been relocated to the back of the base for the Terran, he goes in through the front. Because it means it's easier to go in through the front once all those units have been relocated away from the front to defend against those shuttle drops. And then you break in through the front. Maybe you don't kill your opponent, but at least you open up the front. Which means that, once again, units are relocated to the front to secure the front. Which means that you can then fly shuttles into the main. So it's a brilliant game plan. And once, of course, you have shuttle units into the main, you storm the SCVs there, or at least force them off the minerals, and then units get relocated back towards the minerals, and then you go in through the front and you win the game. It's an absolute genius game plan from 458, with the non-stop pressure. And, well, can Luckyback overcome this monster of a Protoss? Can he overcome this behemoth of a player, Suddenwang, aka 458? So yeah, he's doing the same build again, at least the same opening. 2 gateways, followed up by a nexus, and 2 zealots, and, well, a pylon, because it needs that size space. Probe scouting over the map, SCV scouting over the map, and there's a Marine scouting over the map. The Marine, though, is going to walk into those 2 zealots. Not that interesting. Just gives us a little bit of something to distract ourselves with in the early stage of the game, because not much is happening. A forge came down for Suddenwang, as you can see in the production tab on the top left of the screen. Still on those 2 barracks. As I've already mentioned, confident in his micro. But it does limit his early aggression a little bit. It pretty much gives him the option of cheesing firebats into the opponent's base, sneaking them in there, threatening those probes, as we saw last game. But as we saw last game as well, Suddenwang really knows how to handle those firebats that are being snuck into his base. But Luckyback knows how to stay alive on just 2 barracks, even though it's only against 2 gateways. He knows how to handle himself quite well. Steamer Brigade on the way, firebats have spawned, and now the party is about to get started, because Luckyback is already trying to move out, but he walks into 5 of those zealots, and it's only 5 Marines, 2 firebats, which is definitely in favor of those zealots, unless those firebats get into the mix first and get AoE off them of more than at least 2 zealots. In which case the fight would go into Luckyback's favor, and Suddenwang, not wanting to take the risk, pulls back to his cannons where his zealots are more or less safer. And Luckyback now, I think he realized he can't really go in, but he's going to try anyway. Firebats there running in, while the Marines take focus fire. There's nothing here to protect those probes. Can those firebats make it all the way in? And the probes get pulled out of the minerals, and he runs out of stim. He's trying to go in. Will he get it? Will he get it? And he gets almost all of those probes. And he killed at least 10, 12, 13 of those probes. So Suddenwang tried to micro, like he clicked on the gas here with his probes, and tried to snipe the firebats with the little bit of range that the probes have over the firebats. and then the fire bats would have to die within one shot. But he failed, and cost him most of his income, most of his workers, which now puts Luckyback in the lead. Luckyback, though, is having some trouble dealing with these zealots because he lost all of his units, and Suddenwang knows that, I gotta at least try to deal some damage back to recover, but Luckyback, with his great micro, salvages the situation, pushes those zealots back. 458 is still trying to recover. His cybernetic score is finished. He's added on another nexus, so he knows how important it is to recover here. And he also knows that Luckyback does not have that much offensive capability because he started off with 2 barracks, which means he has to wait on the new barracks to be finished up and get a huge mass up. So he knows that despite the fire bat hit on his probes, that Luckyback cannot go offensive yet because he has no tanks. He only has a small number of marines. The +1 command center here for Luckyback. He didn't go for the +2 as in last game. Although, no, that's going to be a starport or turrets here on the bottom side. Factory almost finished up. Assume it's a factory. Starport. There's a starport. There's the factory. Level 1 weapon upgrade for marines on the way. He's choking up. He's not going for the aggression. And I honestly think that aggression might have worked. But he's planning on taking it slow. And just delaying the offensive capabilities of Suddenwang. He's satisfied with that. He's satisfied with delaying Suddenwang. Or is he? Is he satisfied with just that? There is the scan. He sees the cannons in the front. He's 4 cannons. He's 5 zealots. He's measuring up whether he can go in or not. Medics are rendezvousing with the marines there. Zealots are relocating themselves in front of those cannons, trying to block access for those fire bats. And is he gonna go in? Is he going to go in? That is the big question we have today. A lot of marines now bonding up, but while those marines are bonding up, Suddenwang is getting closer to having reavers. 3 reavers are on the way. Luckyback is biding his time, setting up a turret as a deterrent for Dark Templars. But as we can see here, Silvertoon is only just about to finish, so Dark Templars are not in the mix. Tank, though, is starting to push here on the front. Suddenwang making cannons here behind the cannons he already has there in the front, because he has to backtrack. And it's going to be a tug-of-war progression here for Luckyback. Luckyback will slowly progress forward with the tank push. Luckyback is not risking it with stimming his marines into those cannons because he does not want to lose his marines. Now he is going in though because he killed a couple of those cannons, but the reavers have finished there in the back and have thwarted Luckyback's plans. Which is, as I mentioned earlier, once those reavers are up, Luckyback cannot really fight into the micro reavers. He does manage to get a surround now. And he kills none of the reavers. All the reavers staying alive. Even the shuttle staying alive. And actually managed to clear out all of Luckyback's ground forces. Luckyback tried to heroically go for it. But that great reaver micro and great target firing with the reavers saves the day for Suddenwang. Now the situation, the tables have somewhat been flipped. Because Luckyback, although he has been adding on to his base, the +1 command center there has slowed down his economic progression in comparison to Suddenwang. And Suddenwang lost pretty much nothing of importance, but has crept up to 65 probes, but has lost nothing of importance in that exchange, just right there. Whereas Luckyback lost his entire mass and has to rebuild his mass from scratch, which gives Suddenwang a huge opportunity to start pushing into the front or through the sides, depending on whether he's going to build up for more shuttles. 2 more shuttles on the way, Reaver as well. He's going to load up a lot of them shuttles, but I'm not sure how much he can get done with that shuttle drop, because there's already turrets being made there on the sides. A couple of marines have been located here close to the main command center, so we can at least shuttle the stim those shuttles down. He's landing tanks on the hills. Very smart move, smart choice. Helps him defend against drops here on the side, at least within this area, or it helps him defend against frontal attacks. Also gives him a little bit of abuse here on the side of Suddenwang's base. Now the drop is going to be flying in over the bottom side. Wraith was away, and all the shuttles make it through. Luckyback stimming into those shuttles, and he's moving his SCVs away, but the Reavers get down on the low ground. And the Reavers get sieged down by the siege tanks. One gets relocated there into the bottom top corner, and he winds up not achieving anything with that drop. So now we get a little bit of another flip of the tables. Because Suddenwang failing to deal damage with that massive investment of Zealots and Reavers and Shuttles means that he has to wait for another one, which is going to take him quite some time. Whereas Luckyback has bought himself time to set up this hill push here on the side. Oh, he's still quite small, as I've already mentioned sometimes before. He's now finally adding on more SCVs, but he's only on 54 SCVs 10 minutes into the game. And 458 is gonna take care of the hill there, using those Corsairs to take focus away from the shuttle, landing Zealots on top of those tanks. He's trying to land on top of these tanks here, but he knows he can't do anything there, because those Marines are protecting those tanks. Tanks in the back here are also protecting the tanks here from low ground attacks, in case he wanted to go for Dragoons, for example. So he is setting himself up for that push progression, but whether it will yield the results that he wants is up for debate, because 458 is pretty great at playing exactly into these things. He is one of the best Protoss players in Korea on fastest map for a very good reason. He's smart, diverse, multitaskative, and doesn't waste a second. He always sets himself up for the right moves. Luckyback, though, is progressing slowly, taking down a couple of those cannons there. Progressing slowly, inching closer and closer towards his goal. The probes here on the minerals for 458. Almost managed to take down the tank. Manages to take down Zealots there, though. That's a pickup. Marines there, though. That's a pickup. And he managed to take down the tank as well. So this is some great display of using your shuttles to take down tanks that you want out of your base, or just removed in general. You make their own tanks kill their own tanks. Here comes another wave. Unloading those units. Zealots taking focus. Reaver there, not firing. Didn't have scarabs, I assume. But he's buying himself time for those carriers, because he knows he needs those carriers to fight into this hill situation. Because the hill is pretty much dominated. It dominates ground forces completely, so he needs those carriers. He's been holding himself really well with those shuttles. Reavers there in the back, outside of the range of the tank range. Now tanks being dropped here on the low ground. Tanks going to take care of those Reavers. Reavers going to have to be loaded up. The Reaver gets a shot off on the tank. More carriers are on the way, but he's supply stuck. Luckyback, while he's doing this, has not added onto his base whatsoever. Lee is added on a lot of gazers, added on a command center, now adding on starports, but did not progress towards his anti-air. Does he know that the carriers are here? On the next scan, I'm going to turn off vision for Suddenwang and see whether there's cannons there or not. More tanks being loaded on the low ground. Very slow progression, very slow progression. Once he takes these cannons down, he can drop within this area and get direct hits off on those probes. But those carriers want none of that. Carriers coming in just in time, ready to take down those tanks on the low ground. Turrets and Marines firing on the interceptors. They're pretty good at it. And here come the tanks. 458 dodging the tanks. How many probes will he die? 30 probes went down. So he did not pull enough of those. Well, he did pull enough of those probes away, because he has got 6,400 minerals. And once you're on carriers, you don't need all that many probes, because you just want to make interceptors. But this is actually a great situation here for Suddenwang, because he's opened up a lot of supply space for more carriers. And Luckyback did not manage to snipe the Nexus. If he had managed to take down the Nexus, it would have been a completely different story here, because then the income for Suddenwang would have been too low, having to traverse this distance. But now, Suddenwang is a great position to just use his carriers. Though, honestly, these turrets and those Marines are taking down his interceptors quite well, buying Luckyback time to get his anti-air up. A lot of raids here already being up. He does only have single armory. Adding on more armories, more starports as well, so he's gonna rely on those raids. But do we have an arbiter on the way for Suddenwang to stasis those raids? Or is he going to rely on Corsairs? Corsairs are a great answer to raids. So this is looking quite grim for Luckyback. This is looking quite grim for Luckyback. Great recovery from 458, but perhaps played a little bit too passively from Luckyback in the early stages of the game. Who knows? Templars being loaded up. And they're gonna fly over the bottom side of the map with the assistance of a couple of shuttles. And here a tank drop is flying in. He's gonna try to fly in over this side or maybe drop here and try to snipe that Nexus. 458. Ooh, the shuttles are being sniped down here on the bottom side. Great awareness there. He used his scan to scan those shuttles. Shuttles being unloaded. A couple of Zealots made it out, but all the Templars have died. Now a fight happening here on the left side of Luckyback's base. Carriers doing their best to take care of those Marines and those turrets. Whatever units there are on the left side of Luckyback's base here. Not achieving all that much. Shuttles made it in here. Shuttles are empty. Or did he storm something? Maybe I missed something huge. I don't think I missed something. But Luckyback is adding on more SCVs once again. Tanks being dropped here. Can he take down the probes? Let's get a closer look. Where's he gonna go? Oh, he cannot see it. Alright, he couldn't see it. He could not see the Nexus. That is unfortunate for Luckyback. He could have maybe done another round of 300 damage on the Nexus, bringing it closer to death. Oh, he did kill the probes. He got a shut off on the probes. Because I was zoomed in too much, I couldn't see it, but he got a shut off on the probes. Alright, that's a good pickup for 458. 458 being quite poor. This is quite bad for 458. The 458 now manages to sneak a drop in once again. Reaches the mineral line, reaches the SCVs. The SCVs now dodging. No, are they dodging? They're not dodging. And he kills another 30 SCVs once again. Now his carriers are being chased down by those raids, but the raids cannot chase any further because of the detection of those cannons and the Corsairs once again coming into the mix specifically to deal with those raids. And now the tables have been flipped back and forth within a very short time period in favor of one of both, honestly. I'm not too sure who's in favor here. The probe count is rocketing back up very quickly for 458, but his income is still very low because a lot of his probes are still on the gas. But Luckyback seems quite small here, and most of his anti-air is in those raids, and Valkyries and those Corsairs are now chasing down, but the raids cloak up. No detection there in the back. But the carriers are cleaning up all the ground forces, all the turrets. Now the Corsairs are going back in, and they do take care of those raids. The raids pretty much instantly disappear. Now that's just Valkyries. More raids are spawning, but no Goliaths are there. And 458 is microing his way deep into the base, and he goes straight for the command center, and the command center is now in danger of dying. How close to dying is it? I cannot select it. I cannot click on it because there's too many. Oh, he managed to save it. But now it does die. And now a drop comes in as well, but a drop managed just not to unload. And 458 just gonna hang here on the top side where he is more or less safe with his carriers, and he makes his retreat while taking down the armory. That also slows down the upgrades for Luckyback, which, if you are wondering, 458 is on 222 for his air. And he's not gone for any ground upgrades because he's just playing air. So just 2 shield on the ground, 0-0 for armor and weapons. Great distribution of his minerals. And Luckyback, ooh, he was playing quite well. The game was quite tense, but the game is now honestly hugely in favor of Suddenwang, even though Suddenwang is threading very close to being broke. He is adding more probes once again because he realizes the state that his economy is in. He knows he has to add on more workers for his next grand move. What will his next grand move be? It does kind of look like he can somewhat deal a huge killing blow to Luckyback if he decides to play it safe and secure and slowly progress into Luckyback's base. If he overshoots himself, he might take too much damage on those carriers. What is he going to do? Looks like a slow push. He's just setting himself up for those shuttles to fly in, because those shuttles are carrying Zealots and Templars. He manages to storm on top of the raids. A lot of damage on those raids there, but all the ground forts here have gone down, so he didn't manage to achieve much. And those raids were ready to intercept those shuttles to prevent them from reaching the mineral line. And the carriers get pushed back. Combination of turrets, raids, Valkyries and Goliaths. Enough for now to buy himself time. His SFE count is slowly climbing back up, but his income, because of the distance he has to cover, is quite low. Whereas Suddenwang, never having lost his main nexus, is just in a dandy, completely fine status, state, however you want to call it. And he's just gonna fish for things to kill on the edges of Luckyback's base. In this case, specifically the choke, which also consists of a lot of depots. And once those depots do go down, Luckyback is going to lose about 40 of a supply space, which is definitely going to hurt him here, because once those air units start going down, he doesn't have supply space to replace those air units with, to replace those air units. And then Suddenwang can go for the killing blow. So here, once again, loaded up 8 Zealots, 4 Templars, and he notices the shuttles. He takes down the shuttles quite well, but the shuttles do manage to land, and he managed to get another storm off on those raids. Most of the raids go down. A lot of the ground forces there have gone down as well, because those carriers have been wreaking havoc with their superior upgrades. And Luckyback is really feeling... Oh, he doesn't even have upgrades on his air, because his armies kept being taken down. So he really is pushed into the worst of scenarios imaginable here. And as you can see, the damage these carriers are taking is so very little because of those upgrades. And Luckyback realizes the game is in a state he cannot recover from. And that is a very, I wouldn't say a clean win, but a very beautiful win for 458, playing under the name Suddenwang against one of the top fastest map streamers, Luckyback. And 458 shows us once again why he is one of the prime candidates of being called the best Protoss on fastest map. Because he manages to handle himself really well in a lot of situations. And he plays a very smart and methodical approach, slowly dissecting the opponent. Not just on one end, not just in one area, but he just keeps looking for small things to abuse and turns those small things to build an advantage on, to gain a bigger advantage that eventually snowballs into an unstoppable force. And in this case, he started off with good drops. The drops didn't really yield all that many results, not all that much, but eventually with the carriers, those drops managed to really land killing blows. And the way he handled those tanks there up on the hill, that is textbook example of how you should do it. That is the textbook example of how useful shuttles can be against tanks. Just drop and unload on top of the tanks. Buy yourself time for the tech that you need. So yeah, great progression of a game. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you learned something. I hope I did a good job casting. If I didn't, give me some feedback. If I did, give me some feedback, because there's always a lot of things to improve on, always a lot of things to learn. Never satisfied with my ability. And yeah, hope you come back for another time, and don't forget to have a good day. I'm not going to ask for likes or subscribes. That's all up to you. I'm not going to whine or beg for them. Have a good day.